LA-based entertainment reporter James Desborough is with me now live from LA. James, thanks for joining me. The big story overnight was Gary Oldman. What was his reaction to winning an Oscar?
Yeah, Gary was absolutely blown away, very emotional backstage, and I had the pleasure of speaking to him a lot during award season on Friday at the Film Is Great reception, where he told me while sipping coffee that while he's enjoyed this last 6 months, he actually can't wait to go on honeymoon because he delayed it to do the campaign for the Darkest Hour. And one of the interesting things was we spoke about this, and it made some headlines at the weekend about the notion of what British youngsters really know about Winston Churchill, and he addressed it backstage in the winner's room.
Oh, my God, he would give them a good talking to, wouldn't he? Well, none of them look at history. He was a big believer that you learned, that you looked at history to move forward. There's an interesting thing. There was a sort of survey done, and that children were asked about Winston Churchill. Not just, I'm not talking about 9 or 10-year-olds. I'm talking about, young sort of college people. And great many of them thought that he was either a soldier in the First World War or he was a dog in a TV commercial in Britain. And there is a TV commercial called Churchill, and it's a bulldog, and he talks. And we don't teach history anymore, do we? They don't know anything about it.
As we heard earlier, James, it was a big night for British talent, wasn't it?
Fantastic night. You mentioned Rachel Shenton. She was so nervous that she was shaking during her speech, but the lovely thing she said was that Maisie, the girl who the story's based on, was just shouting. You could just see her in the audience of superstars just shouting at her, and she'd actually almost fallen asleep a few hours earlier with jet lag. Also a great night, as you mentioned, for Roger Deakins, and if people don't know who he is, Skyfall, The Shawshank Redemption, Fargo, just a few of the great things he's done. And I was lucky enough to speak to Jane Seymour about why the British do so well during Oscar season.
I think we're not afraid to make movies that are not necessarily going to be the big money-making blockbusters. So I think we make, really interesting, different movies. We take on roles that, like Gary Oldman, you'd never think of him playing Winston Churchill. I rest my point. And with the miracles of prosthetics and the genius of his acting, he will most likely win the Oscar.
So that's the awards there. What about the gossip, though, James? What did we learn from the Oscars last night?
Well, I went to a few viewing parties across town. Elton John, you've got to give it to the guy. He's holding his 26th AIDS Foundation party, raising millions for charity. He could barely walk. He was hobbling to the red carpet. But you know what? He spoke to all the media and still played Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. I also, for sci-fi fans, found out something extraordinary. Spoiler alert, not my fault. Mark Hamill told me that Luke Skywalker may not be dead, even after The Last Jedi. And I caught up with Ben Morris, who's the visual effects superstar behind these films, and he gave us even broader hint he may be back.
He managed to project himself from one place to another. I'm not the storyteller at this point. So Mark...
Visual storyteller.
I am the visual storyteller. We made Mark disappear. Yes.
Is it like Paul Daniels? Can he come back again?
Who knows? Who knows? I couldn't say. Honestly, I couldn't say. Mark's probably better placed than I am.
And that was at the Film Is Great reception. We also got some really great stuff from Jordan Peele at the Spirit Awards and the Mercedes viewing party as well, who said that the good news is he's just won the Oscar for Best Screenplay for Get Out, and there may be a sequel.
You want the definitive, is there going to be a sequel? Absolutely. You know what? We are not closed off to a sequel. But look, the producers and I agree. This is not the kind of movie you make a sequel just to make a sequel and make more money. This movie transcends the business that it did. And so if I can get a story that feels worthy as a follow-up in this world, we'll do it. And if not, then absolutely not.
So a memorable night then, James. What would you say would be your highlight of the night?
I think it was just seeing Gary Oldman. He'd spoken to us several times saying that he never thought he would get this far in his career, and he wants to savor every moment. And to be fair to him, he's been a great ambassador for Britain and the UK, and just enjoyed being an Oscar winner.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine being on that stage. It's got to be the pinnacle of any actor's career, hasn't it?
He looked like he had just won everything he wanted in life. And you have to say, the lovely touch to his parents, his mum, and his kids. You know, this was a guy who prepared the speech. He knew what was happening. And I don't think this will be the end. He keeps saying, I'm not going to come back. I think this will send him into the next level, and we will see him in the next 5 years with another nomination.
Well, that'll be fantastic. James, thanks for joining me. That's LA-based reporter, entertainment reporter James Desborough, speaking to me live from LA this afternoon, where I suspect it was a long night for James and a long day as well.